Hello, everyone, and welcome, Anne. How are you this morning?
Hi, everyone. Hi, Leslie. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well. Already had my coffee, so that's good. How about you?
Yay. I've had some coffee. I will have some more soon. Um, as many of you know from last week, Syya is at a tech conference in Vegas. So I'm thrilled Anne agreed to be my co-host today, and we're definitely going to have a lot of fun because this is another episode of LinkedIn Lunatics Strike Back. So I see some people are already here, and we're going to get to those comments in a minute. But for those who don't know us, I thought we'd do a quick introduction. Am, if you'd
Sure.
introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you. So, hi, I'm Anne Genduso. I am taking over and stepping into some really big shoes today that I can't really actually take over for Syya as co host today with Leslie. I am a career and leadership development coach, and I help people who are looking to command premium pay and kind of be more fulfilled and take control of their careers.
Yay. So glad you're here and
Yeah.
so glad to be in this conversation with you. My name is Leslie Nydick. I get people unstuck from conflict with strategies for managing communication and negotiation. And these principles apply to conflict and many everyday situations, including how to interpret and respond to LinkedIn posts, which
Oh my
we're going to really get into today.
For
So,
sure.
we're going to welcome our new viewers, our returning viewers. This is episode 3, Red Flags, Bait and Switch, and the Dating Game. And you'll know what we mean after we show you the posts. So, this is all about the posts we find on Reddit's LinkedIn Lunatics. For anyone who hasn't read it yet, you can find it. Sometimes we're going to defend the posts, and that's a lot of them. Other times we may learn a lesson. And sometimes I think we're going to feel a lot of cringe. As you will see, we're going to hide the identities of the people who wrote the posts because we're here to judge the content, not the people. And that's our focus. So I'm going to go. I see we're already getting comments, which
Yeah.
is great because oh, Rana Deb, oh, you're so sweet for being here. Thank you. And yeah, oh, more comments. So, oh, good morning, Holly. Thank you for being here. We're so glad to see you.
There's
Melissa, thank
Melissa,
you
of
for being
course.
here. I feel like as I go through these names, I feel like we're having a reunion of the show we used to do about Career Matters. Stephen
Yeah.
Eng, thank you. Yay. I'm so
Hey,
glad
look
to
at all
see
our
you.
friends here. I love this.
And look who's here. Adam, maybe he's just upstairs.
Yes.
And there's a lot of people saying hello to each other. And guess what? Someone's here from Brilliant Bee Media, which is Sia's company. Thank you for whoever's here right now. If it's you, Sia, hello. I hope we do you proud. And oh, our dear friend is here, and she's listening while running errands. I love the double duty. Thank you.
Multitasking.
So I think we should get started.
All
So
right.
we're going to start with something we call the red flags post. I'm going to ask Anne to read it while I pull it up.
Yes, because it's really tiny on the screen. So I will start reading. Do you want me to start now?
Yes,
Okay, great.
start, and I'll be pulling up so that
Okay.
everyone could also read it.
Okay, cool. All right. So, huge red flag when hiring a developer. I recently interviewed a candidate with a strong background, solid experience, good culture fit, seemed promising. Then, after the interview, they hit me with this. I'm currently making 75K and I won't move forward unless I'm guaranteed 80K. Immediate red flag. Their current role? Writing a mere few thousand lines of code a week, playing it safe, probably doing things like testing and writing maintainable code. This role, a 75K base with a clear, realistic path to 150K, all performance based, of course. Every line of code earns you a spot on our company leaderboard, and top contributors get monthly cash bonuses. The truly hungry ones are pushing tens of thousands of lines per day. And yet, this candidate was stuck on the base salary. And here's the issue: great developers don't play for the guarantee, they play for the leaderboard. They know that true compensation isn't some fixed paycheck, it's about how fast and how much you ship. If a developer is worried about a stable salary instead of their ability to brute force success, they're telling me everything I need to know. They're not a high performer. They'd rather coast at a comfortable 2,000 lines of code a week instead of gunning for the elite 20,000 plus club.
Wow. So this was one that you picked out. So I want to ask you, so what points struck you when you first saw this post on LinkedIn Lunatics?
Ooh, oh my gosh, what struck me? There are so many things that struck me. You know, what struck me was this individual's viewpoint on what made someone a high performer. And to this person, a high performer was somebody who just churned and was doing things as much as possible, as quickly as possible, as often as possible. And where money was kind of secondary, or money was okay, but didn't need to have a base salary guaranteed. So the fact that this individual thought that there was a huge red flag for a 5K difference for base salary, which isn't a lot at all.
No.
It's a very small negotiation. And in fact, for negotiations, as a career coach, we're always talking about put something forth higher than what you already have, go for it, negotiate. What's the worst they could say? No. This is one of those cases where this individual looked at it and thought, oh, that's a huge red flag for me. So that's what stood out to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I have an interesting update.
Okay.
So, which may or may not influence our interpretation as well as those from our audience. And we're going to get to the viewer comments in a moment. So after this post received a lot of attention on LinkedIn and on Reddit's LinkedIn Lunatics, the author of the post added a little bit of an edit at the bottom, and I went and found it. So at the very bottom of the post, it said, edit. This post is satire. So this is what struck me. Yes, I know. I did not know it until it was just a last minute find that I found the post and I saw that and I go, oh, that like totally changed my thinking. But I've brought this topic up before. So whether the author wrote that to defend against the backlash is what I thought at first, because there was a lot of negative backlash, or it initially was really meant as satire. For me, the latter is the question to ask yourself before you post. So if you're posting satire, you don't necessarily have to say this is satire, but you have to find a way to communicate it, because this is a business platform. So we're initially looking at everything as serious, like information, learning. There may be something funny, but people find a way of letting us know, like, this is meant to be funny. I want you to laugh with me, not at me. So if you want, so we're going to take you seriously unless you communicate otherwise. And that's what happened with this post. And not only the comments on LinkedIn, but as well as on LinkedIn Lunatics. It was taken seriously.
I don't know, Leslie. I'm wondering. I'm like, I'd have to do some more research because, it sounded very serious. And what's interesting is Reddit as a whole, like they've got their own kind of like micro subculture and micro language, right? And what they do there, if you're making a sarcastic post or saying something sarcastic, because it doesn't translate well over text, you at the very end of the post put a slash and an S. And so that's an interesting concept that if maybe that needs to translate off of Reddit and into other other venues and to LinkedIn maybe.
And that was why I wanted to mention that. I
Yeah.
don't know if that edit was put there to kind of hold off all the backlash because there was
Right.
a lot, or if it really was meant as satire. And I did look, there are some people who put out a lot of satire. So I
Yeah.
was looking at some historical posts and they tended to be serious. So again, in context, I'm going to take it seriously.
Yeah.
Let's
And
see
listen,
what.
like we've heard people say this before. This isn't like so out of the realm of possibility. Like we've heard people who have hiring managers who have rejected candidates because they felt that it was an insult. So
Yes, yes. I want to say hello to Glenna. I'm so glad you're here. Yolanda's here. Good morning. And I'm skipping ahead. There's people saying hello to each other. Oh, Robert Berry is here. Hello. And here's a comment from Rana Deb. So here the candidate is asking for an increase in salary, which is fine.
exactly.
From
Yep.
one job to another, the salary has to increase. Otherwise, what is the point of changing the job? Ooh, that's an interesting separate topic because I've actually changed jobs where, I mean, maybe there was a little bit of a salary increase. I remember once getting tremendous more vacation, and that's what really drove me because that was worth so much more money to me.
That's true. It's not always salary, but you're right though. It is tends to, people tend to like bump it up a little bit.
Yes. Let's see. Melissa said something. I think this poster is making a lot of assumptions about this applicant.
Yes.
Ding, ding, ding. Seems like there has to be more to the story than just this one line. But either way, I would say the red flags are more on the poster as a boss. Great insight. Thank you for sharing that.
Wait, to add to Melissa, when I originally read this, I thought, yeah, there is a red flag here. And it was, yeah, on the poster. But if I were the candidate and I was reading that, or I knew that that is what my future hiring manager was thinking, I'd be like, red flag, I'm not working here.
Absolutely. I'd say the original poster is the red flag here. Great point, Robert Berry. Thank you for saying that. Um, Oh, Adam has something to share. It's a long one, so I'm gonna. It's hard. Oh, here I can see the whole thing. So basically, this is a developer boiler room. Good
Yeah.
point. That only cares about how many lines of code developers generate and could care less about someone who can handle end-to-end development, including quality assurance. So developers can generate thousands and thousands of lines and break all of their existing software. Thank goodness it's satire. And I still wonder, was it satire? But such a great point. That whole thing of like quantity versus quality, is that what
Yeah.
you want from me? Like,
Yeah.
let me do 10 more deals, whatever my work is, or 10 more projects. Or do you want 4 really good ones that are successful?
Yep.
I would hope you want the latter versus just the quantity, because then it's not only gamified, it's just what's the meaning behind that to just create extra code.
Right. Yep. Code for coding's sake.
Yeah. And hello, hello. Um, hello, Syya. We'll find out from you later. Feel free to critique us. We're so glad you're here. And again, I hope we do you proud.
Please be nice, Thea.
So, exactly. So I think we can get to our next post. So
Sure.
while I'm going to pull it up, and if you would read it, that
Yeah,
would be great.
this is bait and switch, right?
Yes.
Okay, just checking. All right. So I tell candidates the job is remote. They accept. Then I tell them it's in office. They still show up. It's not lying, it's strategy. Companies struggling to hire are missing the point. The best candidates want remote work. If I listed a job as in office from the start, I'd lose half the talent pool before the conversation even started. So here's what I do instead. One, post the role as remote to attract top tier applicants who wouldn't consider us otherwise. Two, Take them through the hiring process and get them invested in the team, the mission, and the opportunity. 3, once they accept the offer, I clarify the in-office requirement. And despite what you think, most don't walk away. By that point, they've already committed. They've turned down other opportunities. They've built momentum. Starting the job search over is much more of a hassle than just showing up to the office. It's not deception, it's strategy. And in a competitive hiring market, it's outright genius. If that bothers you, keep struggling to fill roles. I'll be busy building a winning team. I can't even say that with a straight face.
Wow. Wow. Um, I don't know what to even start with. What do you think, Anne?
Oh man. Yeah, another one. This is another one where I would be thinking, wow, do I want to work for a company like this? I think, if it's not satire, I see people on there saying like this has to be satire, and honestly, I hope it is. But if it's not, we have heard that there are companies and there are places that are posting ghost jobs to fill talent pipelines. So this is not a ton
Sure.
different, right? Where they're kind of switching out and saying it's remote so they can get the best candidates and the biggest pool, and then switch it on them last minute. I think that if your strategy, your genius strategy is to deceive people or to switch something out, then you're starting a relationship, any relationship. This works for anything. It doesn't have to be for work. You're starting
Sure.
a relationship built on lies and broken
Yep.
trust, because that person will understand immediately that you had changed your mind or lied, and you'll be starting off the bat with broken trust, and they'll leave. They may accept it
Absolutely.
at first, but they're not going to stay.
Absolutely. Well, it might not surprise you. This isn't always my trend, but on this one, I have some updates.
Okay.
Let me share what I learned about this post. It did go viral. Um, and this story became an article in Newsweek magazine.
Mm,
So I pulled a quote from the author of the post, and that's in the article. So let me share that quote. I've seen companies, in some cases, take advantage of shifting job markets and uncertain times. So I wanted to highlight that in a humorous way. I truly did not expect the post to blow up the way it did or stir up so much anger. End quote. As a result, there was an edit put on this post, and it said at the bottom, for those in the back, this is satire. Don't take it too seriously. So there's a couple of points I want to make. One is the first quote that came to mind for me was
yeah.
a quote that comes from George Bernard Shaw. And he says, the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. So my tip is for this one, this gentleman, his account is satire, but you're on LinkedIn. I don't know you. I'm going to see this without knowing that your whole profile and account. I'm just seeing your post. I don't know that you have a satire type of account. It's not written in your headline. There's no indication. So again, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm going to take you seriously because you really do have some facts in here. You're just talking about situations that are really happening. So don't ever assume that everyone knows your account is satire. And then don't be surprised by the anger that comes back at you. So find a way to let us know. It's like the same lesson, but in a different way, because this guy's account, or I shouldn't have said guy, but I'm not identifying him. You can find him if you want. But our point is the content, that if it's satire, find a way to tell us. And you genuinely were, his purpose, as was clear in the Newsweek article, was to bring up this topic and talk about it.
I don't know. Well, here's the thing. Listen, I get it. There are satire accounts on there that do that. But if you're not stating it's a satire account, like you said, if there's nowhere that it says it,
Yeah.
then how can you in good faith say, I didn't know that this would raise such red flags. If it was satire, you knew it was going to. You did this for engagement. You did this, so I don't know if I buy that like innocence. I had no idea.
And you bring up a good point that it's on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
It's not on some other social media platform. So you're expecting we're going to take it seriously.
yeah,
And that's what's going to make it go viral, because there's going to be a lot of reactions, and strong ones, to the topic you raised.
sure.
And you didn't tell us that it was satire. How am I supposed to know? This happened to me. I think of it like the workplace. If we're working on a project together, there's a way. If we're together in a room, we know when someone's starting to joke or be sarcastic, because we see their body language, or they may
Yeah,
actually say, I've got a joke for you. Because you do have to figure out how to switch that, because otherwise there's this context that everything's being taken as fact, as serious, as work.
so
And
here's a
that's what
question.
LinkedIn is.
Yeah,
Yeah.
here's a question for you, Leslie. If he wanted to spark dialogue, right? Because that's what we do in LinkedIn. Wanted to spark dialogue. That's what we're doing here about these very important topics. Did he then they in their comments actually say this is satire? This is what wanted to start a dialogue. What do you think about companies? Because some companies do this, or did he just let the comments come in and sit back and watch the engagement?
From what I read, it was all the latter, what you
Mhm.
just said. So yes, so then I think the purpose was to have something go viral, even just the
Yeah.
whole account. I think that may
Yeah.
be the purpose. So we have a lot
Yes.
of comments to look at. I'm going to try to scroll back to where I left off. I think there's some hello. If I miss any, we're going to catch it after the event, because we're going to go in. Um, I'm just seeing. So Danny, welcome. This has vibes of I throw half the CVs, resumes I receive away because I don't want to hire unlucky people. That's a great comment. Um, and then Robert Berry, no way this is real.
You got it.
Adam, this sounds like the plot of an episode of season 8 of Younger.
Yep.
There's a bunch of hellos back and forth. I'm so glad people are networking, because isn't that why, like, we're here to begin with, the conversations between everyone. Syya said, as a former IT recruiter, this is truer than we realize. Wow, great point.
That's why it was so
Oh,
believable, because this does happen, right?
welcome, Ryan. I'm glad you're here. When someone lies about material facts like that, they're stealing your ability to make decisions for yourself. Great point. And great point about just the recruiting process in general.
Mhm.
Glenna, if this is for real, I wonder what else they'd be deceptive about. And Stephen, if this was real, you'd bleed terribly quickly. Great point.
Yep.
A candidate wouldn't last long if they accept the job. They will use the first weeks to search for another job. And of course, we're talking about the prior post in many cases. And I'm sorry, I was delayed in pulling up these comments, because just so everyone knows, they came in a little bit late,
Mhm.
and delayed. There's been a slight delay with your comments. We're not getting them live. They're coming a few minutes, like 5 or 6 minutes after. Syya, let me be clear. I didn't do it.
We wouldn't think you would do that to somebody.
We weren't accusing you. Melissa added, I honestly find this all very deceptive. If you're going to post satire, you need to state that in the post, not as an afterthought. Absolutely. And I think that's the point where we can question for both of these posts, when they posted after the fact that they were
Yeah.
satire, was it just to push off the negative feedback, as well as maybe finding out they were on LinkedIn Lunatics.
Mm-hmm. And there was a comment in here. I'm not sure if you saw it. I think it was Syya who mentioned that that's one of the biggest criticisms of this whole LinkedIn Lunatics subreddit now, is that people are now starting to make things up so they do go viral. And so LinkedIn Lunatics, people are like, oh, is this one real or is this one a satire account? Or like, so it's getting to the point where who knows? And if we are on LinkedIn, which is supposed to be, a business social platform, what if we start seeing more and more of these just because they want to go viral on LinkedIn Lunatics?
Oh, that's a great point. And it does, it's that thing of going viral. Is going viral great no matter what the reason is that you've gone viral? I don't know. I think I don't think I'm going to seek to be on LinkedIn Lunatics.
Yeah. Oh, please.
Other people, no judgment. If you'd like to be on LinkedIn Lunatics and go viral, hey, go read it and figure out what kind of post is going to get you there. So there are a lot more comments, but I want to bring up our last post so that we can get it. And we definitely, there's lots of good conversation and many long comments on this event post. So we've got lots of conversations that are going to continue throughout the day.
Yeah,
So
as usual.
next one
Yeah.
is a short one. So if you would read it, and I'm going to bring it up now.
Sure. Dear women, if you're struggling to get a job in the current market, have applied to 2,000 plus openings over 2 years with no results, feel enraged by delusional and out of touch employer expectations, frustrated by endless hoops to jump through, disheartened by constant ghosting, and discouraged that nobody reaches out with the first genuine interest in your expertise, now you understand what the dating market is like for the majority of men.
Okay, just to add to this story, on this one, I picked out several of the comments on LinkedIn Lunatics. So I want to read some of them.
Yes,
The
please.
first one, well, I'm definitely sure he decreased his dating chances with this post. Someone else wrote, another person interpreted the author as saying, it's not me, it's all you women that have the problem. And here's another. This one may be a bit drastic. That's my comment. They wrote, I'm this close to saying we need to shut down LinkedIn. No, 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 no. First of all, I know they don't want to shut down LinkedIn because they wouldn't have anything to talk about. So we know that not to be the case. And two more quick ones. He just told on himself. He's been turned down by 2,000 plus women. I love it. And last but not least, the last comment I picked out was, we can all see why he is single. So what is your thought, Anne?
It's funny. When I first read this, if you strip away the gender thing, right? Like the dear women and all that, if you strip that out, I was going, there's a point there because, Adam, who's been commenting, is my husband now, but, I had a long-term relationship, a marriage before and divorce. So I was on the market and I've done the dating apps and all the things. And it's hard, and it's like it's a whole crazy world with like the swipes and all that kind of good stuff, and like the numbers game. And there are some parallels, a lot of parallels to the job search, especially today's job search, which again, automation and all of having so many flooded competition and all that good stuff. So if you took that away, I see the point and the parallels. But when you throw in the dear women, I'd actually say, it's very myopic, right? Looking at one type of thing and attributing it to a whole gender. Where I'd also say, I had that experience, but I am the woman, right? And you had the same thing on the other side of it too, right? Where it's very difficult to try to sift through the bots and the people who aren't the right, that who don't answer you and all that good stuff. So that was my
Yes.
first impression. I'm like, I see where they're coming from.
Yep.
Not great execution. Very,
Exactly.
yeah.
I think our thoughts align a lot on this one. I mean,
Okay.
first, just because you know the one that keeps on coming up, this is really applies to all these posts, it seems like. Just because you know the tone of your own voice, we can't hear it. So unless you find a way to share your tone with us, we don't hear it. I think you made a great point. Like if it hadn't said "Dear Women," and my thought was if you want to compare a job search to dating or any other like unexpected combination, go ahead and do it. Just help us see the connection to share the journey of your thoughts. When you start out with "Dear Women," you're already, we're hearing something there like, yeah, what are you going to try and tell us now? So if you skip over some of the linkage of like why you were trying to compare these two things, then we miss out too. And this is what really LinkedIn lunatics like jumps on all the time.
Yeah.
These like crazy connections between like last week, 2 weeks ago, or the first show where someone connected like the fire and recruiting. And it's like, oh, hold on, the fires aren't even over in California. And now you're like,
Yeah.
talking about recruiting. There may have been a connection, but you kind of left out the thoughts and you didn't take us with you on your thought journey.
Yep. Yep. And you immediately alienate people too, right? Like, so I think there's
Yes.
some comments in here, but like the second you start reading this, you want to stop because you're like, what? Okay, you're going to tell me how I'm thinking or what that now I should be empathetic to you. It's just very
Yes.
harsh tone.
Yes. I know I'm gonna put, and this sounds like a keeper, and I don't know if we're talking about this person or the one before, because this comment seems to be about the one before. So here, the recruiter is trying to recruit new candidates for the job, but the mode of advertising is not correct. If the job
Mm.
highlighted is remote, then it should be remote or work from home. Absolutely, like the bait and switch just doesn't work. Do you really want two things? Do you really want that to be the start of our relationship, that you pulled me in with a lie? Or for me to get there and be like, I want remote. That's why I answered the ad. And now I'm telling you, oh, yeah, working in the office is okay, but is it really? And I'm just going to leave as soon as I can find another exit. I'm just pulling up. Oh, I have a Oh, hi, Lisa. We're so glad you're here. Happy Saturday to you too. Oh, that's why I'm so lucky, Anne. I love the two of you found each other.
Well, me
And
too.
no one knew that we were going to be talking about like love today. Um, and just quickly, it's all bouncing back and forth. Here's a thought from Robert Berry. Okay, in
Yeah.
all seriousness, thank you. And he says he's being serious, so that's the tone I'm going to read it in, and we'll find out if he was kidding. And to be somewhat fair to this poor poster, I'm told this is what it's like in the dating game. That's not my experience, poor fella. But why would you complain to women about it? Improve yourself and play the game better, or get out of the game. A lot of tips in there. Great point. I think we should find this guy's post and make sure Robert puts that comment there for him, because
He's giving him some
that's
dating
great
tips,
advice.
right? He needs it.
Yeah. And I think again, my comments stopped that I'm seeing through. Or no, wait, I got another one. Sorry. Now one came in. Comparing dating with job searching is a conflict of interest waiting to happen. If you don't take time to explain the journey of your thinking, you're only going to make the backlash worse. Absolutely. And we've all seen those kind of posts where that all happens,
Yeah.
where it's not your intention, and then it just, person ends up pulling the post. I don't mind like the Discord. I don't know about you, Anne, but I guess when it gets really angry and attacking, that's really difficult. But if it can be like disagreement, like why not?
Sure,
Like I don't
sure.
mind those kind of debates, but it is hard because we're all doing it in writing.
I
And
feel like
writing is right?
yeah, and I feel like with this particular poster, by doing the dear women and then saying this is how all men feel or majority of men or all of that, it's attributing a blame too, right? Like it's a blame game here, saying, well, this is what women are doing and this is how men are seeing it. So that it automatically is showcasing conflict instead of truly trying to draw a parallel or explain to try to get some empathy out of people. It was just so poorly executed.
Yeah. And I think that's yeah, I don't you know what? When we're like feeling a lot of feelings, just like when we're about to send a text or an email, if you have like just even 50% heightened emotions or you feel like your fingers are tingling, don't hit post or send
Yep.
yet. Like
Yeah.
read it again. It's okay, even if in your head, "Oh, no, I have to post at 10 AM." It's no one's gonna care. There's no
Yeah.
time clock on the wall. Take 15 minutes and read it again, and make sure that what is in your head is on the paper.
I mean, listen, maybe he did feel that way. Maybe he is bitter. Um, and we're assuming that this poster is a man. But maybe this person is bitter. And if they are,
Yes.
and that's what they want to put out into the world, I guess that's on them.
And guess what we can do? Oh, it's so funny how, like, a whole bunch of comments just flew in. Also, we have the ability to just scroll on by.
Yes,
Like, no one said you had to comment, so no one said you had to finish reading it.
true.
Believe me, there's over 1,000,000,000 people on this platform, so go read another post if that's not the conversation you wanna be in, because we do that when we're in the office. There's a few people at the water cooler, and you don't wanna talk about that, like, show or that sports, game that they're talking about, walk on by, go find the conversation you do want, right?
My big thing is don't feed the trolls. When you feed the trolls, you know what? Especially if you really think that it's either attention seeking or that there's just a really bad point of view. You realize every time you comment, you're giving them more engagement because it's going to push the algorithm more. So that's why I say, you know what? Just don't feed the trolls. Just walk on by.
Yeah. And this kind of aligns with that. Sia wrote, "What you put out in the
Mm.
universe is what you attract." So maybe this guy should find the right tribe for him. I remember some of the best advice, smile and the world smiles back at you, you know,
Mm.
engage in conversation in a curious way, and people do want to talk to you. So it really like aligns with when we're posting. If you really want to have a conversation, then start a conversation versus just telling us. Ask a question too. I'm gonna pull up some more. Robert agreed. I'm with you. And then Sia's put thank you, Sia. You're taking words out of my mind. So kindly like, subscribe, and follow on LinkedIn and YouTube. We're in both places. Just look up LinkedIn Lunatics Strike Back. We're going to be every other Saturday. And that's why I have another banner to throw up here. We're not leaving yet, but I just want to put this date in everyone's mind. March 15th, Sia will be back, and we will have more posts to talk about. But before we go, any, concluding thoughts or advice or anything that's going through your mind, Anne?
Oh, geez, there's always so much going through my mind. But
We want to hear it.
as it relates to LinkedIn lunatics, I think there's a cautionary tale in all of these, in every post that's featured on LinkedIn lunatics, and I think we have to remember Sometimes, and I'm guilty of this too, sometimes I think I'm writing, I write my posts and I'm hoping they'll help people and I'm hoping they'll inspire or whatever my intention is. And you don't realize that, like, sometimes you see the little impressions, people are actually reading them. So just that's a cautionary tale to remember that, so that, yeah, you might need to take that pause if there's emotion, or you might need to think about how could this be perceived by somebody else. Am I clear I'm being sarcastic? Did I write it in the comments later? And am I really trying to get a discussion, or do I just really want to try to get as many eyeballs on this as possible? So that would be my parting words of wisdom, is just to think about your intentions before you post.
Yeah. Pause before posting.
Yes.
And sometimes, like I always say, sleep on it. You don't have to literally sleep on it, but definitely, as I mentioned before, like take that 10 or 15 extra minutes and come back to it. Because remember those times that you were about to send an email in anger or even in happiness, and you held it back and then reread it and realized, oh, what I was thinking didn't all get written down. So I have to add a few words or remove a few
Mhm.
words. You don't, your mind adds those words or deletes them as you're reading it in the moment with those emotions. So we have to, like, just take a step back or have someone else read it. I used to love when I sat next to someone, I'd be like, okay, can you read this and tell me what you think it says?
Yep.
And a lot of times they tell me something, I'm like, oh, that's not what I meant. Let me go back and rewrite it. So
Yeah.
I think that's the big lesson of just read what you're writing, and just, you can't guess how everyone's going to read it, but just be aware that there's probably more interpretations than your own.
Sure.
So most importantly, we're getting to that end point. I want to thank you, Anne, for being here and for being a LinkedIn Lunatics reader, which I was not before we started this show. So thank you for providing many of these posts today, and thank you for being here with me, because it's great to chat with you and
Oh my
visit.
goodness. The pleasure is all mine. Thank you. And thank you, Sia, for entrusting me to come on and chat with my dear friend Leslie while you are in a conference. And I hope everything's going really well for you too.
And thank you to everyone in the comments. And there are lots of great comments, and I can't wait to get in there and reply and have like mini conversations with all of you. And we will do that later today. So thank you, everyone. I hope you come back on March 15th. And we have a little outro video that's going to play. So stay to listen to it and keep on reading LinkedIn Lunatics, and send us your suggestions for posts if you want to see it on the next show. So thank you, everyone.